All right, welcome everybody to this virtual Lauder College House family welcome for the senior staff. My name is Cam Gray. I'm the Faculty Director of Lauder College House. And I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to welcome you to this conversation. What we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about this semester and about what we've been doing in terms of program. I'd like to talk a little bit about the philosophy of our community, because that's an important underpinning of what we've been doing, and also what it means to have a faculty director, a house dean, and faculty fellows involved in a community like this. I'm a scholar of Roman history. I'm in the Department of Classical Studies, and in that role, I teach courses on Roman history. I'm a particular expert on the functioning of small communities in the late Roman world. Now, this sounds just like a curriculum vitae observation, but it's important because what I'm trying to express, and one of the things that's really philosophically important about the college house system, is that faculty members are residential or involved in the communities with students. And in the process we're blurring the boundary between formal learning in the classroom and the transactions of everyday life and being in our home space on the other. That's because philosophically we believe that the learning never stops, right? This is an exercise in enhancing and really complementing any of the classroom experiences that Penn students might have. We're going to make sure that we have some time for questions after our formal presentation, such as it is a formal presentation. And if you wouldn't mind typing those questions into the chat, we'll make sure that we address them either textually or verbally. As I've mentioned, there's a philosophical underpinning to the residential college house system at Penn, and it's a philosophy that is based in the notion that Penn is a big place, and it's a place that requires some localization to turn it into an educational experience that works for the individual. And that's where the college house system comes in. It's a way of connecting students with one another and connecting students with mentoring figures, both among the student body and in the Penn community more broadly. I'm going to invite my staff to introduce themselves in a moment. But before I do that, I just want to make the point that as a virtual community, what we really are trying to ensure that we do is communicate that philosophy of engagement and involvement, communicate our collective philosophy of being citizen scholars across as many virtual platforms as possible, so that we give those members of our community the opportunity to engage with the ideal of the citizen scholar in as many ways as they might feel able to do. I want to hand over now to Trina Sokolowski, who's our House Dean, to talk a little bit about how our virtual community has been functioning over the last several months. Trina.
Thank you, Cam. So in my role as the House Dean for Lauder College House, and specifically this semester for virtual Lauder College House, my role is to work with our faculty, our office staff, and our student staff, and we'll explain and you'll hear more about what the student staff does in a moment, our RAs and GAs. But I work with all of them to help to set our goals and intentions for the semester, and to consider and activate plans to create whatever type of experience that we hope to provide, or to the opportunities that we hope to provide for students. In this case, this semester, that focuses on helping our virtual community from all corners of the world to be able to connect to us as resources, and to be able to connect to each other and to the rest of campus. Penn, while we're all learning virtually, the campus itself is not closed, the offices are not closed, though we may be doing our work from different locations. We're all available to support students. And so I work with our team, particularly in my supervision of the staff, to be able to enact those plans to help students get connected, to make sure that our staff is trained and has the resources that they need to be able to enact their work. And that, as we are, any kind of challenges that students may be working through, I serve as a resource to them in troubleshooting, problem solving, things like that. In my role, I also serve as a pre-major advisor in the College of Arts and Sciences. And so I have a role in a bit of academic planning and goal setting for some students, and then I'm able to share that knowledge and insight with others. And I'm also a student myself. I'm pursuing a doctorate of education, and my research interest focuses on wellness and help-seeking behaviors among college students. And so, but first and foremost, I see myself as a support and resource for both our students and our staff. And now I would like you all to meet Dr. Bronner, who is one of our House Fellows, and she will speak about her role and the work that she does for our community.
Thanks, Trina. I'm really excited to be here with all of you today. It truly is just a joy and a privilege to work with your young folks as they're here with us and part of our LCH family. There is nothing like being in this role. So when we first, were presented with the opportunity to live in-house, right, with younger people, you might think, well, why would an adult want to do something like that? But I can say, as a professor, getting to know them more, right, like walking through the hallways, sitting with them at dinner, and now that we're fully virtual, being on Zoom, using our Gather Space, some of the other resources that we've had, there is not another experience that I've had on campus that compares to being a faculty fellow in the house with the students and the residents that we have. So it's an absolutely amazing opportunity. And so we thank you for entrusting them to us here as part of our Penn community. I am an associate professor in the School of Nursing, so I'm a nurse scientist, and my work looks at the ways that environments where people live, work, and play influence their health outcomes, and sometimes that is promoting, health promotion behaviors, or also trying to prevent different diseases. And so there are ways where bringing the intellectual life of campus into the house really plays out nicely, because we get to foster that sense of inquiry that they've already come to campus with. Or, I can't tell you the number of people where we've had them, hosted them in our homes, or done different chats where they can brainstorm and think through how do they want to apply their degrees, or what are, their career options after they graduate. And so that's one of the things that I also really enjoy about being in this position, sort of helping them in that transition to adulthood, helping them wrap their minds around what do they want to be when they grow up, and doing it in a way where they see that sometimes it's not always linear. You can have these thoughts and ideas, but then as you're exposed to new things, it either reshapes or confirms for you what you already wanted to do. And so that's exciting as well. The bulk of the programming that I do in the house with my nursing hat is mostly around health and wellness and self-care. So we do yoga, meditation. We had a faculty discussion a couple of weeks ago talking about navigating uncertainty, because there's just so much up in the air right now. And we know for them developmentally that it's already potentially a challenging time. So we really do try to come alongside the other resources that are within the university to make sure they have what they need to thrive and to be well. And I also have a 10-year-old son. So we bring in the gaming aspect too, or, sometimes outside skateboarding or basketball, different things. So that's been fun as well. And the gaming piece, being able to carry that over into our online community. But I look forward to any questions that you have. And now I will give it over to Dr. Ponce de Leon.
Hi, thank you so much, Bridget. So I'm Jennifer Ponce de Leon, and like Trina, Cam, and Bridget, I've been part of the LCH staff since it opened. And just want to reiterate what Dr. Bronner said about how enriching being in this role has been for me. I care very deeply about teaching undergraduates, and I do a lot of undergraduate mentorship. And I really want to, agree with what she said about the uniqueness of the role of being a faculty fellow in LCH and the kind of opportunities that creates for other kinds of mentorship and co-learning and collaboration with the residents, be they virtual or in person. So I'm a scholar of American Studies, Latino Studies, and Latin American Studies. I'm an interdisciplinary scholar. I am an assistant professor in English, and I'm also faculty in the programs in Latin American and Latino Studies, Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies, Cinema Studies, and Comparative Literature. So I wear different hats in in my work at the university, and in my programming that I've organized at LCH, has been organized in one strand of it has really been organized around my love for the arts and what I really think is the kind of pedagogical potential of engaging with the arts, and by that of all kinds, be they visual arts, theater, film. So I organize a lot of events for residents that, on one hand, try to encourage people to take advantage of the many opportunities that are available, whether through the university or in Philadelphia, to learn more about the arts. And right now, as everything is remote, I've been continuing to do that by highlighting opportunities that exist for attending performances or talks, artist talks online, for viewing films that are particularly relevant to topics, and then having conversations with me about those events afterwards, or conversations as well with other residents. So I normally do that and really try to spotlight, international cultural production, and to also spotlight artistic productions that are relevant to other things that are going on in the world. So recently I've organized opportunities to view really recently released work around for Latinx History Month, another event around National Coming Out Day, another event around censorship and the arts. And then another thing that emphasis of mine in my programming at LCH has been on supporting undergraduate research. Dr. Bronner and I both mentor LCH research fellows, and we have an event coming up that's spotlighting different opportunities and resources that are available to support undergraduates in their research at Penn, and that also gives residents an opportunity to hear from other undergraduates about their experience in different research methodologies and practices, as well as to hear from Dr. Vernon Gray, who we're very lucky to have on staff, as she is the knows everything about undergraduate research at Penn. So I'd be happy to answer more questions, and just want to thank you all for being here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Calderon. I'm the house coordinator for Lauder College House. I graduated from Penn actually back in 2018 with a degree in sociology. Along with many of the administrative tasks for the building, I also manage our work study students. They are in charge of the social media platforms. They'll be in charge of creating the newsletter that goes out weekly to promote the events that we're having within the house to the students. They're also in charge of any marketing that we have, including creating posters for our events and stuff like that. It's been really fun working with them so far. I just was able to hire a lot of them this past month, and so it's really exciting getting to finally start projects with them. And I just wanted to reiterate, like Cam said, we will have a section towards the end of this conversation for your questions. So as we continue this conversation, make sure that if you have any questions, to post them in the chat, and I'll make sure to get them all answered at the end. But in the meantime, let's go over to Noah, one of our GAs.
Hello, I'm Noah Klopp. I'm a first-year GA here at Lauder College House. And we're going to start with the GA role. There's a lot of different hats we kind of wear. We're probably the most forward-facing of some of the roles here, just because we directly interact with all the students in both our virtual communities and what would typically be our floors. So we interact with the students on a daily basis. We kind of organize community outreach to some degree for this semester. Instead of maybe knocking on doors, doing check-ins with residents, we send out emails. We have group chats. We have a house Discord server that we've been engaging on, and just kind of reaching out to the students, making sure that everyone's doing well, that if there's any concerns with academics or maybe some personal issues that they're having with this virtual transition, that we kind of make sure that we guide them to the right resources and help just kind of ensure that everyone is, putting in their best foot forward and dealing with the situation as best we can. So it's very much kind of a resource point for a lot of the students, at least currently. That's kind of how I see the GA position.
Thanks, Noah, and thanks everybody for sort of giving a broadly focused sort of taster of what our community is all about. We'd like to drill a little bit more deeply into some of our programming initiatives, just to give folks a sense of what we do. Before we do that, I wanted to make sure that I let people know that there are a couple of other events and initiatives that we have planned for Family Weekend. The first thing that I think is really a wonderful thing, it's something that we do when we have our Family Weekend on campus, is that we'll be doing a notes from home experience, something where family members can write up a slide for their community members, sending them support or telling them how proud of them they are for the work that they've been doing. I'm going to post that into the chat right now. So if you feel like you'd like to communicate something to your Penn student about how they're going with their studies so far, then please do share that in our notes from home, our family tribute. That's something that we'll be unveiling next weekend. We'll also next weekend be unveiling a sort of a video of our programming initiatives. So this event today is kind of the tell part of the show and tell. We're doing it tell and show the other way around. But if there aren't any sort of really focused questions right now, and do please throw those questions into the chat, I wanted to just give folks an opportunity to hear a little bit more about some of these words that we've been throwing around. We've thrown around a Discord server. We've thrown around GatherTown. We've talked a lot about Zoom meetings. And perhaps it's useful for us to give a little bit more information about what that might be. So maybe Jocelyn, if you could give a sort of a schematic description of our Discord server, since it's really your responsibility for putting it all together for us. It's a communications platform, right?
Right, Cam. So Discord, for those of you who may not be aware, is a sort of like a social media platform. It is a space where students are able to interact with one another casually in the same ways that they would were they here on campus. They, in Lauder, especially because of all the spaces that we have available, students will hang out and get to meet each other there in these like casual sort of informal interactions. And so we wanted to make sure that that was still something that we were able to give students during our time remotely. And Discord is sort of the platform that a lot of people use for that sort of thing. It's very popular among gaming communities. And so we set up something called a server, which is basically just LCH virtual. Students are able to join different affinity groups. Each of these affinity groups has a specific topic in mind. We have some that are for cooking, some that are for cinema, some that are for plants, some that are for gaming, and so many others. In these different affinity groups, students get to interact with one another and talk about their shared interests and get to experience specific programming for their affinity group. Just last night, we had an event for the LCH Cooking Affinity Group, where we were to discuss all of the different, or this recipe that we all made from our own homes, and discuss the meaning behind it. And there's also a fitness and wellness group that Dr. Bronner runs. And she has, I think, basically bi-weekly programming for wellness and well-being. I think the most recent one was a session for meditation for students to come by and have just like a brief meditation session. And so these different affinity groups are on Discord. Students are able to join them and interact with us on a more intimate level. And yeah, that's basically what Discord is. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, Joss. And it's so one of the things with us being virtually is that it's kind of hard to mimic those organic moments, right? So there's one thing that happens when you come through these doors and you go through the turnstiles and you get on the elevator and you're seeing your floor mates, you know, you're seeing the house dean and the coordinator, you're seeing the faculty fellows. And so this server really gives us a unique way to try to preserve some of that. One, you know, just checking in and making sure that people are okay, but then continuing to build that sense of community. You know, my master's is in psych mental health nursing, and I'm very conscious of the ways that this pandemic can be very isolating, you know, socially isolating. So that has been an amazing, I don't even think any of us could have imagined that it would work as well as it has for the residents to be able to connect not only with each other, but also with us. And so, you know, there's times like Cam was hosting a study hour, and even if people couldn't come in at the same time, they were talking about different tips and strategies that they were using to study. You know, do you put on music? Do you walk first? Do you eat something? You know, and if you are eating something, is it healthy, right? And giving them that space, again, to just continue to have the academic support, to connect and have community so that they're not feeling alone. And then what's been nice is the ways that they're even jumping in and starting to develop their own things. You know, so those with an affinity for planting, Jocelyn is in that channel for LCH Grows, where people are growing, you know, plants and ginger and herbs, and then taking that and putting it into recipes. So I think it's important, and I hope you can see from our perspective that we're really focused on like the whole person, right? And so it will be really hard for them to excel academically if they're having personal struggles, or, you know, they're dealing with other difficulties. And so by creating this well-rounded, nurturing, but also still challenging and scholarly environment, I would be biased and say I think our house is the best house, because we've kind of struck that balance of, you know, working with the future presidents and those who are going to cure cancer and those who, you know, will develop new technology. Like, they're all here with us at LCH, and we're just really trying to be creative in how we engage them. And Discord is one. The other one I wanted to mention, and I'll have a video showing this in the content that comes out next week that Cam mentioned, is something called GatherTown. And basically, you know, we've had a sharp learning curve for this process as well. So it was like a new platform to learn. But in essence, I don't know if any of you have experience with like Sims or those types of virtual reality games, but it's a virtual world that each of us got to create our own spaces. And then as you're in it, you can talk to people who are in the vicinity with you. You can place activities there. So like I have Google Docs where people can ask and answer questions. You can build in Zoom, so we can go to a certain section, and then if we need to break out into conference rooms, be able to do that. But we've really tried to think far outside of the box to try to make this as good of a semester, you know, as possible, but then also making sure that they can continue to thrive in the process. And then there was something else that I was going to mention. Oh, as Dr. Ponce de Leon was saying about research, you know, we have some really great opportunities. So if you know that your students, even if they have just hinted at it or they're not sure what they want to do, please encourage them to participate. We've had residents go on to secure like large size grants that are several $1,000s. Some have even continued on for PhDs as a result. I won't say as a result, we can't take all the credit, because you, as you know, parents, caregivers, loved ones, were also watering those seeds as well. But I can think of at least 2 residents who are now in master's and PhD programs based on getting to learn what they were learning from all of us collectively in the house. But yeah, I do hope that you have some questions for us. So feel free to unmute yourselves or put those in the chat if you think of other things too.
One of the things that a community such as this characteristically does is work to connect our students to resources on campus. And we've been working really hard to do that in virtual ways. There's a couple of things that we wanted to make sure we highlighted about that. One is a podcast series that we've been running. It sort of functions as an asynchronous passive reception version of some of the conversations that we might otherwise be having. And this is something, and we'll post this into the chat and also make sure that there are some resources available for this in the next week or so. It's usually a conversation between myself and either members of the Penn community or former members of the Lauder College House community, where they're talking through resources and experiences that they have taken advantage of on Penn's campus and more broadly. So that's one thing that we've been doing. And the idea there is that people are so fatigued by Zoom that something that's just audio, something that's just going to be in their ears while they're going for a walk, while they're cleaning their rooms or washing the dishes might be a welcome break. But another way that we've been trying to connect with resources has been using our Discord channel as a chat space while we collectively or together attend a campus-based resource. Last week, for example, one of our other GAs who has had several years worth of undergraduate research experience at Penn participated in the Reddit phenomenon of Ask Me Anything in an event that was organised by the Centre for Undergraduate Research and Fellowships. And so we set up a Discord channel about research, and we zoomed into that conversation. And then as Harvey was answering people's questions, we talked about it in the Discord channel, and we had a chat that was going on around that experience, something that would be, again, something that we would be doing if we were together on campus. We would together go to an event either in the city or in the university, and then as we were walking back from it, we would discuss it and we would talk about, what we'd learned, what we wanted to know more about. So again, this virtual experience is something that we are all learning to navigate, and we're trying to find creative ways of both replicating and enhancing the kinds of experiences that we might have if we were physically all together. Another one of the things that we I think have really collectively embedded in our practices as a community is something that we've called What Matters. And this is something that I know Jennifer has been fairly heavily involved in ensuring it works in an online forum. So Jennifer, have you got some things to say about that?
Sure. So What Matters is one of our traditions at LCH, where every Sunday evening, one of the members of the senior staff or one of our homes, we host events on conversations that matter. And it's part of the kind of ethos of our community of encouraging and creating opportunities for and modeling intellectually engaged, informal conversation among the people, the people who are part of the LCH community. And I think part of that ethos is that you can have that we're all very passionate about what we do, and we care about a lot of things in the world. Also, this is part of our kind of commitment to developing a kind of global citizenship in our community, which I think very much aligns with Penn's values as well. But that those kinds of conversations about what matters to us or what we're concerned about or what we're thinking about, those happen all the time, right? Not just in classrooms. So we try and create a lot of opportunities to encourage that, and also to give students a chance to talk with us and with each other about things that are on their mind. So we have these conversations, we host these conversations every Sunday, and we make the topics broad and timely, and sometimes they have to do with pressing issues that are going on in the world, and sometimes they have to do with time management as we're nearing finals, and sometimes they have to do more with like managing stressors and things like this. I really appreciate this this tradition being one. It gives me an opportunity to get to know the residents and really what they care about and what they're thinking about. And it really, I think, helps them get to know each other and find and begin to have these kinds of conversations or continue these conversations with each other. So it's a really important part of community building as well. And this is one of the traditions that I think we've been able to translate to a remote format pretty smoothly. So we have these conversations on Sundays. I'm hosting tomorrow's, which in light of Family Weekend is on the topic of family and how our relationships to family change and how we create family and all of these things. And each of us, we just rotate, and so that's also a way for us, for the residents to get to spend and get to know all of the senior staff as well as connecting with each other.
We've got a question in the chat about the mechanisms and the supports that we have for our incoming freshman students. We actually have a dedicated first year program in our community, and I know that that's one of the things that Trina has been pretty heavily involved in fostering and mentoring. Trina, can you add a little bit more sort of detail on how we're supporting our first year students this year?
So first, thank you for that question. And Lauder College House, of course, is just for a sense of context for folks, Lauder College House is a 4-year community, and that we support students who are part of the community, can be from any of the 4 years, freshman, first year through senior, are all eligible to live in Lauder, or to be a part, this year, of course, to be a part of the virtual community. And we have about a third of our student population is comprised of first year students. We have, and I think that our first year students represent our most engaged in terms of a level of participation and seeking opportunities, and being a part of different activities and events. And so specifically what Cam is referencing is our FYI, or first year innovation communities, a group of students who applied to be a part of the specific program community for first year students, where we will be discussing and sharing about challenges, just the theme of challenges. So challenges that folks are facing in their academic work, challenges that they are facing as a Penn student in general, and then kind of expanding that concept to local and global challenges. And so starting with those shared experiences and conversations, and then working with creative problem solving models and design thinking models to be able to develop solutions, to be able to develop a sense of creativity and develop and share solutions for various problems or challenges or opportunities for change. And so that provides peer interaction, a chance to work with a graduate associate who is a facilitator for that community, as well as me. And then eventually we'll get those folks there's also connection to the sophomore or the second year community that we have in LCH, which is 2XP, or the second year experience. Similarly, with our group of sophomores focused on the shared experience and what it means to be in your second year, and their focus is on leadership development and civic engagement. And so as they develop in their experience, there are opportunities for those that choose to do so. There will be opportunities for them to connect with our first year students as well. I would say that the bulk of our programming and our opportunities that we offer for students who choose to participate, most of those opportunities are intended to support the transition for students throughout their time. And so there are quite a few things that offer kind of an introductory introduction to different support resources. Those are things that are, of course, going to benefit our first year students. There are, I believe that, there are many opportunities and plenty of conversation that happen for our students, where I think one of the nice things about being a four-year community is that there is quite a bit of kind of informal mentorship and insight and perspective taking that happens across class years. And so we will have, and we do have, kind of relationships and friendships and connection that develop based on common academic interests, based on involvement in clubs and organizations. I believe our, particularly our undergraduate resident advisors are an excellent resource in helping our first year students become involved on campus, both in formal type of events and activities intended to do that, and also in the informal conversations that they have. And so we have a variety of opportunities for students, both informal and formal, for them to choose to become involved in, to help them in those transitional moments. And I would also like to share about our practice of regular check-in conversations with students. So we have kind of the traditional, we of course offer the traditional types of opportunities for folks to come together, kind of a general call for people to participate or to join us in a particular platform for an activity or an event, or share some shared experience. And then we also are committed to the individual connections that we're able to forge with students. And so each resident advisor and graduate associate is assigned to a group of students that sort of operates as if they would as a floor community, but in a virtual group. And the RAs and GAs reach out individually to each student in that group to check in about things that might be happening during the semester. I believe, our students had kind of their first round of big projects and midterm exams happening. And so that's always a common conversation point for check-in, just to see how folks are doing, to be able to help students to connect with resources again. But that individual connection is really important. And so the RAs and GAs reach out on that individual basis, periodically, frequently, making themselves available for students to choose to then reach back out and set up time for either for email exchange or chat. Folks kind of work through whatever medium works best for them. And that happens with our senior staff as well. So the faculty and I each have a group of students that we work with primarily, that we are reaching out to individuals as well, that we're making ourselves available. The way that we operate as a staff, of course, is that anybody can reach out to any one of us at any point and get some sort of help that they need, either from us or from a resource or a colleague that we know is going to be able to help them. And so the point is that what's really important for us and what we're committed to is really helping to establish and create that kind of net of support for all of our students, and particularly our first years, who are an important part of our community. So thank you for that question, and for listening, and for being involved and encouraging your students to participate. Thanks.
Just to reiterate what each of us, I think, have said in our own particular ways, this really is a two-way street for all of us. We're talking a lot about the support that that we as a network and as an institution and as a community are providing for our students. But I think it's fair to say that for all of us as well, it's a supportive network, and it's a joy and a pleasure and a great enhancement of our scholarly lives to be involved in a community like this. Some of the things that Trina's been talking about systemically, are things that, as Noah has suggested, are things that our RAs and GAs are really involved in, boots on the ground. And I know that Noah's got strategies that he's been using, which it might be useful to hear about, and also strategies that colleagues of his have been using. So that might be something that would be useful to hear, to give you a sense of the panoply of options.
Sure. There's really a lot going on. We have a large staff that's just committed to helping all of our students kind of get to where they need to go. And kind of with that, there's a lot of different aspects to that kind of speak to each of our strengths as members of the community. We have a couple of our GAs, a GA and an RA are both very into economics. And have been working towards applying kind of those ideas into forming a group with the residents to kind of get them interested and involved in that subject matter that maybe seems a little bit foreign and maybe a little bit difficult for a lot of the students. So it's kind of opening up to maybe something that's considered a advanced topic and kind of breaking it down and introducing it to quote unquote the masses, the new students that we have in our building, and kind of taking members of our community and kind of getting them involved with their own experiences and kind of really shaping it into something that everyone can feel good about and kind of contribute to in a meaningful way. Additionally, like earlier this week, I believe it was mentioned before that one of our students, one of the GAs, Javier, is really involved in on-campus research. And, you know, just kind of like taking his experiences and finding out like, okay, so he's been working a lot with that, and how do we apply that to our, you know, our newer students who are just coming in and getting involved into the research aspects of the university. I know myself, I'm kind of getting involved in that too, as I'm a first year GA here. It's something, a different system. It's something that even I'm learning as a member of the staff and as a member of the community. So it is very much, as Kim said, a two-way street. Everybody's kind of learning from everyone else here. And a big part of that aspect as well this semester has been, I feel, the Discord server, because it's a very democratic way to interact and kind of engage with everyone. There's really no there's a little bit of a top-down planning to some degree, where we try to throw out some ideas, whether it be different like cohort groups that we're trying to get ourselves started in, or if it's one of the students that says, hey, there's something interesting that I'd like to discuss. They'll throw it up there, and we all kind of just get engaged with it and just put it out there, try to create a community going around it in a very just democratic way. Everyone's putting in their 2 cents and maybe getting something out of it, maybe not, but it's there, it's the opportunities, and we're just trying to keep these doors open.
I think the point that Noah's making about a democratically organized situation, and also the multitude of opportunities, is really well made. Noah, you didn't mention the study break that you ran this past week. One of the things that we often characteristically do as a community is try to make sure that we are being mindful about our self-care and our downtime from our studies. And so if we're together as a community, we're doing study breaks, and those take all kinds of different forms. Noah collaborated with me to run a choose your own study break this past week, where we laid out a bunch of possible scenarios on the Discord server and invited people to decide which study break they wanted to have. Did they want to have a study break talking about the vice presidential debate? Did they want to have a study break where they sat and drank hot chocolate and ate cookies? And it was just really an opportunity to give people an excuse to close the books and to get off the Zoom just for a little bit. I feel like we've spoken a lot, and I really don't want this to be an experience where you're overwhelmed completely with information and not given a chance to convey information of your own, because we know that the folks that are on this call with us are parents with their students perhaps at home with them. And so if you have observations or feedback that you'd like to give us about how your family members are experiencing Penn, how they're experiencing this semester, and how we might be able to enhance that or support that experience, we'd love to hear that. So please put that into the chat, or or even unmute yourself and let us know. And if you do find that there are things that, as we break this call, you really wanted to share with us, I think Jocelyn has shared her email with you in the chat. The rest of us are also very easy to find. I think all of us have our email addresses up on the Lauder College House website. And if you'd like to reach out to any of us, we'd be only too happy to talk more about what our community is trying to do. Otherwise, it's left to me to thank you all for joining us in this experience. We do greatly appreciate the opportunity to work both in person and remotely with your children. And we're also grateful for your interest in our community as we continue to navigate, the challenges that we've been facing over the last several months.
And I would add of course, we are available for any questions or things that you might want to discuss with us. As Cam mentioned, please encourage your students to reach out to us as well. As you're talking about the different and sharing the different things. Thank you for the comment about the informative session. Glad to hear that. So as you have now received a little bit of insight about what we're trying to do, the opportunities that we're trying to put forth, if you're discussing this with your students, and if they have questions about stuff, or if they need something, please feel free. You are welcome to contact us, but please, feel free to put them in contact with us too. That's really what's going to help all of us to be able to help them, get the most out of what's available to them, whether it's a question, whether it's an idea that they have, something that they want to accomplish and they're not quite sure where to get started. Really good folks on this call to be able to help them with that. So please encourage them to reach out to us as well, or to their RA or GA. And if they don't know who that person is, send them my way and we'll get them connected. Thanks, everybody. And with that, I'm going to stop our recording.